Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Maybe have a few other people join. But first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining today's webinar. Pretty excited about today's webinar. It's pretty important. What we're going to be talking about today is the importance of timekeeping and payroll. When it comes to your compliance. This is a big topic right now. My name is Misty Corns. Been with Beyond Pay for a while. I'm a solution specialist. Also have Brittany and Lindsay on with me. You guys want to say hi?
Hello.
Hello.
Perfect. So Brittany and Lindsay both are implementation specialists. Some of you on the call today might actually have worked with them before. They're really technical. They understand the system really, really well. They're going to do most of the legwork today. But before I turn things over to them, just want to again say thank you for taking the time away, from your busy day. We appreciate it. We really do respect your time. We're going to do our very best to make best use of your time today. So I won't be talking too much. I'll turn things over to them in just a second. But we do want this webinar to be interesting. We want you to get something from it. We want to make it fun. Brittany and Lindsay and myself, we talk all the time. We want your interaction this time. So you guys type in the question, the Q&A box within the meeting. Any questions that you have, we're going to make sure we address all those questions. At some point during the webinar, we may take some questions offline, but definitely type those questions in. Okay, so Brittany and Lindsay, I'm going to just actually give you some pictures of Brittany and Lindsay. This is Brittany and Lindsay. You saw my picture earlier. Again, they're implementation specialists. So what are we going to be talking about today? And so number one is, why do we need time and attendance and scheduling and some employee self-service to help us with compliance? We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about how transparency, giving your employees transparency into all of these things, including time off and PTO and sick time, all of those things, how it all kind of will help you with those compliance items. But then we're going to take it a little bit step further and help you as administrators understand how using time and attendance with payroll helps you manage your employees' hours better, helps you cut costs, with overtime and things like that. And then as a bonus, you're going to get, how everything really comes together as a whole. Understand really how that works. So, before I actually turn this over to Brittany, I promise I'm going to about 2 more minutes and I'm giving it to them. But, it's important. We all know, everybody on this call knows it's important to pay employees correctly, right? But a lot of times what gets missed, especially with the smaller, mid-sized companies and sometimes even the larger companies, is really how important that time and attendance, the scheduling and tracking time off, and again, that transparency is when it comes to compliance. So we're going to walk through and talk through some of those things, like a real life experience in the system. By the end today, with all of the, all of the compliance laws that are changing, that are being added almost on a daily basis, being able to track the hours, again, the time off, the scheduling, you really need something to help you guys with that, taking a lot of that manual process and even kind of big question marks, out of the picture. And employees really do, they want to see what's happening with their pay. They want to know that, they want that transparency, and they want it like, they want to be able to see and do things for themselves. If they want their paycheck, they don't want to have to call somebody to get that. Or if they didn't get the overtime that they were expecting, giving them that, the tools to be able to see that information is going to help your employee morale. It's going to cut down on a lot of questions that you guys get on a regular basis as administrators, as managers, inconsistencies. will get you in trouble when it comes to compliance, and a lot of rules and things we can build into the system to help you maintain the compliance. So all of this, by the end of the webinar today, you're going to understand how payroll and TLM together is going to help you with that. I'm not going to read this, but I just want to kind of point out a couple things on this. These 4 claims over the last 6 months or 7 months or so. You can see the first one here, 224 drivers, had a claim, and Express Delivery had to pay out almost $600,000 to those drivers. In November, 3 employees got almost $200,000 for wage violations, overtime violations. Small companies, right? I mean, the next one is 36 employees, $200,000. And then December, 13 employees. So this isn't just affecting big companies. This is affecting the smaller, mid-sized companies that are having to pay these fees for not processing hours correctly. We all know, hopefully everybody knows, that there's a new overtime rule that went into effect January. We sent out some information about that. The wage requirement for that changed to $35,568. If you're not compliant with this, you might be one of those companies that have one of those claims that we just looked at. We don't want that to happen. So, we want to do this webinar today for you so that you can see how the system truly can help you with these compliance things. And Brittany and Lindsay are going to walk you through how the 2 modules are going to work hand in hand to give you as a company administrator or as a manager, a better grasp of the fact that your company is compliant. So I think I took a little longer than 2 minutes, but I'll go ahead, and I think I'm ready to turn it over to Brittany. Brittany, are you ready to get into the system?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. All right. So thank you guys for listening to me for a couple minutes. I'll talk to you again in a little bit later, or as questions come in. So, all right, Brittany, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and you can take over.
Thank you. All right, you can see my cursor moving around.
Yes,
I do.
Yes. Thank you. All right, so currently I'm logged in as an employee. As soon as I log in, I am greeted with these charts. I can get quick access to my timesheet here. I can punch in and out, and you can also see that I had last punched in for the day at 7:06 a.m. I also have this quick insight of seeing how many irregular hours I have, if I had any overtime hours for this pay period, and how many vacation hours I have available. An employee can log into the system and see their timesheet, their schedule in real time. Any updates made on the manager end will feed over right away. So I'm going to jump into the timesheet. Okay, I can see I logged in for the day. I have some time off on Friday. I can also view past timesheets. I'm just going to toggle back a pay period. I have a lot more hours here. So maybe I'm reviewing the timesheet. This is a new pay period, but my manager is going to process payroll. I want to review my timesheet as employee and make sure all my punches are correct. If I had missed a punch one day, or maybe clocked into a wrong cost center, I do have access to submit a timesheet change request. Now, a timesheet change request is something initiated by the employee that will feed over to the manager for approval. So if I had forgotten to punch out one day, I would want to add a time entry, enter the date in that time entry, and then as soon as I hit submit changes, my manager will get a my to-do bell item right up here for them having to approve that time entry. Now, what's great about this is that as soon as that manager goes ahead and approves that workflow, they will not have to enter anything manually. Everything is workflow driven, so you're going to stay in compliance by not entering time on your employee's timesheet. Now, the same thing goes for time off request. If I'm an employee submitting a time off request and my manager approves it, that time off is going to automatically flow onto the timesheet. So again, yeah, I'm not entering any time, editing my employee's timesheet. Everything is going through a workflow. Now, I also have insight on saying where my hours are going. As an employee, I can look at all my punches, but maybe I'm curious as to know how many hours are going to overtime, how many hours are going to regular time. So I can see over here, I have 40 regular hours, and then being that the system is programmed with FLSA requirements to put in all time over 40 in a week to overtime paid at time and a half. So I see that weekly overtime kicking in over here. And toggling back to the timesheet, you can also see I have my schedule right here. So this is just one way to view a schedule straight on the timesheet, but it's also in another area of the system as well. So clicking the menu up here and my schedule and schedule, I can quickly see a schedule that my manager has assigned to me. Now, talking more about compliance, there are some states such as California that require attestation. There's also states that have very specific lunch break laws. We do have attestation in the system, and if enabled, you can ask your employees when they punch out for the day if they had taken a lunch break. And their answers will feed over to a report that a manager can review at any time. Now going to time off. So as an employee, it's super easy for me to see my balance and request a time off. Okay, so I would want to select the time off that I would like to request. And under accrued balance details, I can just click in here and get some more information. I have 15 days accrued, but my current balance is 13 days. I've taken 2 days. I have 0 time scheduled. So when employees goes to initiate their request, they never have to reach out to their manager and say, hey, what is my balance? The system's going to tell them their balance, so they're not submitting a request for time that they do not have. And I have a nice calendar out here of my scheduled hours already. And it's super simple. The employee would just hit start request. If they want a full day off, maybe they just need 4 hours off. And again, as soon as they would hit submit request, this request would feed over to their manager for their approval, and that time would be automatically added to their timesheet. Okay, now I'm going to log in as a manager now. So I'm just going to open up my other window here. And as a manager, I have more charts. You can see I have a bunch of different dashboards up here. And I have just same insight as employee, quickly viewing my timesheet as well as all of my employees' timesheets. I have certain categories pending approval, maybe payroll Monday. I can easily view all timesheets that have to be approved so I can move forward with payroll. Or I can look at the current pay period or really any time frame that I want. Sorry, my screen just froze up a bit, so let's go somewhere else. Okay, and this report is really great because I can easily see how many hours my employees are working. It's giving me all my employees and a summary of hours. And I can toggle through to view another pay period by just clicking this button right here. Now, looking at the top right of the screen, you can see I have 6 My To-Do bells. Now, again, this is where I would see any timesheet change requests or time off requests that a manager, that one of my employees has sent to me. I can easily go into multiple timesheets at once by just checking the checkbox and clicking View Timesheets. Or if there's a specific employee's timesheet that I want to look at, I can just click this icon right here. I'm going to move over to a timesheet that has some time. So let's take a look at the employee that I had just been logged in as. Sorry, I think my internet's a bit slow today, so it's loading. So taking a look at her timesheet, so you can see the managers use a little different because it's not grayed out. I can go ahead and edit that time, but to really stay in compliance, you don't want to manually make any edits or changes to the timesheet. You want everything to be workflow driven. Now going over to the summary by day tab, I can quickly see that her hours are moving over to overtime once she hits 40 regular hours. So I don't have to do any calculations. The system is doing all the hard work for me. And now to get more insight about what's going on with overtime, time offs for all my employees, the system has some really great graphs we can configure for you. So going over to my time dashboard, I can see the status of the timesheets if I have some that are approved, submitted, open. So if I was processing payroll today, I have a lot more work to do. I have to have my managers approve these timesheets and get them in the approved phase. I can see missing punches by employee, quickly go in and see Anthony, I gotta go ahead and fix his records. I can see how much regular and overtime I have per department. So hovering over the dark green bar here, I can see Albany has 11 weekly overtime hours. And looking at this chart to the left, attendance board, I get quick insight as to who's in the building, who's out of the building. And I can click into this chart and get a nice drill down of who's in and who's out. All right. And now we have some great graphs for time offs as well. So I'm going to toggle over to the accruals part of our system. I can quickly see the employees that have taken time, the days that are earned. And this chart down here is pretty neat. I can see the time off that each employee has left. So just hovering over, it tells you the hours remaining for all of my employees that report to me. Now, another cool feature is if you quickly want to see who's off for the week, who's off for the month or year, we do have a time off calendar. So clicking over to this menu here and under time and time off. Right now it's filtered for the year. So if I want to drill down a little bit more, maybe it makes more sense to do a weekly view. I can see that Beth has some time off on Friday. And you can actually export this report out as well as have it linked up to your Outlook calendar. So when you log into your email, you can quickly see your employees that are not going to be in for the day. All right, I think that covers it for me. Lindsay, are you ready if I turn it over to you?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, everyone should see my screen right now. Brittany, do you see it? My cursor's moving.
Yes, I see it.
Okay, perfect. So hello, everybody. Most, if not all of you, probably already use payroll in Beyond Pay. So some of the basic payroll items might just be review for you. So for today, I just kind of wanted to highlight some compliance aspects of the system, charts and graphs, admin views, and employee self-service that help with accuracy of payroll and also staying in compliant, which is the most important thing when it comes to payroll. So as you'll see on my screen right now, I am logged in as the payroll administrator. So using the charts and graphs on the dashboards, I've created a compliance dashboard which can quickly and easily give me any reports and graphs that I've created that help with my compliance. One graph in particular I have right here is salary by job and pay type. I've created this to help me stay in compliant to the new minimum salary threshold for exempt workers, the new 2020 overtime rule. So just looking at this graph quickly and easily, if I want to zoom in on a particular part of the graph, I can just by dragging my cursor. I can also hover into the sections, and as Brittany had shown in the other charts and graphs, you can drill down into the details that make up of this bar. So I'm able to see that this employee is actually under that minimum salary threshold as a full-time exempt employee. So we like to use charts and graphs just to nicely and easily just view the data that's already in the system just to ensure that we're compliant. All right, some other dashboards that I have here as an admin, they're all up here, and I want to go to the payroll dashboard. So on the payroll dashboard, I'm able to enter in some charts and graphs that also help me just review the amount of money that is required for each payroll, different general ledger, you know, earnings and deductions. And right here, I also have all of my gross payrolls by month. So as an admin, you know, when you're processing payroll, one of the biggest things to be in compliance, and one of the main reasons why we like to use time and attendance with payroll, is so that you don't have to manually key in your hours. So a great advantage of having timesheets with payroll is the ability to sync time from timesheets into the pay statements. This eliminates the need for admins to manually key in hours, which can also lead to data entry hours. So right here as an admin, I have my list of payrolls. So when I go into a payroll, when you have time and attendance enabled with payroll, you have your time prep process. So in the time prep process, here are what your steps will look like. Okay, now if you've got your employees punching in and out, you have your managers approving timesheets, typically as an administrator, there aren't too many things that you need to do at this point because managers have been approving time off requests, any timesheet change requests, and they've been approving timesheets. So at this point, you just need to prepare your timesheets for payroll entry. So these are the steps that time prep include. All right, and then the greatest thing about having timesheets with payroll is your ability to sync time, as I mentioned. So this eliminates you from having to manually key in your hours, which we find is the greatest room for error in payroll. It's very easy to add an extra 0 or an extra 1 in a number, which can greatly overpay or underpay your employees. So by syncing time in payroll, you're taking the time entries that have already been approved by managers and all of your time off entries, and you're bringing them onto the pay statements. Okay, another benefit from syncing time from timesheets into payroll is that you're able to have the punch details on the employee's pay stub, which we'll review in a moment when we log in as an employee. Okay, so I'm done here as the admin, so I'm actually going to switch my screen to the employee self-service. So right here on my screen, I'm actually logged in as Beth. So Beth is an employee at my company. So this is what her dashboard looks like. Now, Brittany had mentioned that the time clock is right here, giving them the ability to clock in and out, but next to that is their pay. So it gives them an idea of when their next pay is, and it also gives the employee the ability to view their pay history. So as Beth, if I click on this view pay history link, I'm able to access all of my pay stubs. This eliminates Beth from having to go to her manager and, you know, add extra work to the admin. They're able to go in and grab this whenever they need to. So the employee can log in from home or the library and go get what they need to from their own self-service. So as Beth, if I click on preview pay statement right here, this is how the pay statement reads. I'm able to download it into a PDF and then print it or save it as a document on my computer, whatever I need to do with it. And as I mentioned, one of the nice features of having timesheets with payroll is that punch detail. So on the pay statement, right here on this pay stub, here's the section for the punch detail. So this is creating some transparency to the employee so that they can see their time entries and their total time and how that relates to their actual hours paid right up here.
And Lindsay, I think you can also add accruals to the, oh, there it is.
Yep, they're right here. You beat me to it. So here's the accrual section. You can also enable this on the employee's pay stub so they're easily able to see their earned time taken, their balance. So all of the information is right there for the employee right from their pay stub. So again, also ensuring that all of the numbers in the system are correct, all of the balances, and we're including everything right to the employee so that they're able to get as much information as possible. You'll also see on the pay stub right here, we also have enabled the tax allowance settings. This also gives some transparency to the employee's pay stub. They're able to see their filing status and how their taxes are being calculated right onto their pay statement instead of, again, going to an administrator or their manager, perhaps asking questions about how their pay is calculating. Okay. So again, the employee, they're able to get their most recent pay stubs. They can also receive their historical pay stubs. So if they needed the past 6 months or whatever the situation might be, they have access to all of that from the self-service portal right here. Now, going on the same topic of compliance, one of the key pieces of compliance when it comes to payroll, not only paying the employee correctly, but is also having all of your tax documents on file, all of your withholding forms for your employees, and giving employees access to their forms and W-2s. So I'm still logged in as Beth right here. So if Beth goes to her toolbar right up here in the left corner, and goes to, there's a couple different ways to get to it, but if they go to My HR, Forms, and then Government Forms, they're able to access their withholding forms and W-2s. So going to withholding forms specifically, this is where the employee can submit new withholding forms, and they can also preview any historical withholding forms that they've submitted. The great advantage as an administrator for this is if you have the employee fill this out electronically, you can go in and process and approve the withholding form that the employee has submitted without having to go in and actually manually enter in their tax settings, which again, it eliminates some data entry errors. But just looking at this as Beth, the employee, I'm able to view my withholding forms that I've completed. I can download them if necessary. And I can also submit a new withholding form by clicking Add New. And then also with the W-2s, the employee is able to have access to their W-2s whenever and wherever they need them in order to view them or print them. Okay, so that is all that I had for the payroll piece for compliance. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen right now.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Lindsay. So I do have a couple questions. I'll go ahead and jump into those really quick. The first question, I think, Brittany, is going to be for you, and it's, can employees add scheduling preferences?
Yes, they can. They can add in preferences and availability.
Okay.
And when managers are creating their schedule, they'll be able to see that in the screen and make sure that they don't schedule that employee for a day that they really can't work.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you. And the next question, I think I'll probably take this one, but we are a small company and we worry we're not compliant with the new laws. What's the first step to check? Exempt law, sorry. So first of all, we would want to look at your employee job descriptions, their duties, things like that. And then you would look at their salaries and adjust them accordingly. This webinar was really more of a technical, webinar. So I won't go too detailed into that, but, let your CSR know if what my answer wasn't good enough, and they can get you in touch with the managed HR team to give you a little bit more information and help you with any compliance items that you are concerned about. So definitely reach out to your CSR on that. And then I have one other question, and I think, Brittany, this is going to be more for you. Is there a reason that I should track hours for salaried employees?
Yeah, so for salaried employees, it's nice to have all their time entries on the timesheet, especially because if the salaried employee were to be terminated halfway through the pay period, the system would only want to pay them their hours that they had actually worked. And you can also give managers the ability to manually key in their time off hours as in bulk hours. So you can really track how many hours that they're putting in a day. You can have the system default to 8 a day, but you can also at least let those managers enter how many hours that they're actually working. You would still only need to pay them 8 hours a day, but it's nice to keep track of how many hours your employees are putting in.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I think that's all the questions I have for right now, but you guys just first of all, thanks for joining the webinar. If you have any questions about anything we talked about or anything that it triggered in your mind, definitely reach out to your CSR. They can put you in touch with anybody, and they should be able to help you with questions, but if they can't, then they can